while we are social distancing and accessing healthy, nutritious food. So we have some ideas. I'm going to talk a little bit about uh, why it's important. We're going to go through what's really going on in the country right now, and then ideas for you on how to stay healthy. So why are we talking about this with you? We all know this, right? This is not like a new thing. Increased weight can contribute to many health risks. So diabetes, stroke, high blood pressure, all lots of different things. I'm not going to focus on, I mean, that is absolutely true. But right now, we're really trying to think of things to support your immune system. So why is that healthy, right? With the COVID, making sure that we're as healthy as we can be, we have the best immune system, we're in the best mental health of our lives. So if we have are exposed to this, that we have our best chance to fight it off and being healthy. So supporting your immune system and eating foods rich in vitamins and nutrients that are brightly colored, vegetables, and that can all help your immune system. This also impacts your mental health. So obviously we're already in a challenging time, staying at home, living very different lives, that it's impacting your mental health. But your food can impact your mental health, and what you're eating and ingesting in your body helps with that as well. And then also acknowledging that while some of us in this quarantine world are challenged by like healthier foods and getting access to healthier foods and gaining weight, there's others out there that aren't getting access to enough food in general. So we're going to talk about that as well, with food insecurities and some resources. So some of the contributing factors that I'm going to go through around why this is happening right now. So the food supply chains have all been impacted. There's access to the food that you're normally getting is very limited, and it's different than what you're used to. There's food insecurity situations going on. Snacking is at an all-time high. So there's some statistics coming up that I found mind-blowing that are very interesting. And then your physical activity is limited. So very few people are getting more activities, more physical activity. There's a few people that I know that I'm watching on Facebook or other social media platforms that are like running marathons on their own. I don't think that's the average Joe. I think most of us are chilling at home, not getting as much physical activity. So I'm going to go through some of those things as well. Oh boy. There we go. So first I'm going to talk about the food supply. So what is happening in our country right now with food supply is that there are large meat processing facilities that are either shut down completely, not most of them, or had to have shut down and now they're restarting. They have reduced capacity because they are making sure that people are social distancing. I know that the government got involved around making sure that facilities aren't shutting down. But what's happening is they're producing less beef, chicken, and pork and putting it into the supply chain because they literally can't process it fast enough because the facilities aren't opening and they're not full functioning. It's also causing higher prices and supply shortages throughout the country. So that's just like a little snippet into the meat. There's also a lot of difficulty right now importing ingredients. So I've read a few articles in getting ready for this presentation, and Coca-Cola and Campbell's Soup was in one of the articles, and they've had to slow their production because they cannot import the ingredients that they need to make soups or beverages. So think about that on the larger scale. How many thousands of companies are out there that are producing food that can't get the ingredients that they need to produce it? So therefore, there's less options of food on the shelves, or it's getting to the grocery stores slower. So there's also difficulty with logistics. So when you're looking at this importing and exporting thing, I read an article about shipping containers across the world. And what's happening is like large shipping containers are put on freighters or trains, and then they're transported across countries or oceans to get to other places around the world. And there's some shipyards that have shipping containers that are just stockpiling, they're bottlenecking because that country is importing, but they're not exporting any goods. So they're not necessarily putting product back in those shipping containers and shipping it back out. And what's happening is, I was reading an article around a company in Canada that has a ton of food. They have no containers to put it in. So they have the food, they just can't ship it to where it needs to be shipped. So they're looking at different ways of doing that, different vessels or trucks or different ways of getting the food out that they have so it doesn't go to waste. So it's an interesting time right now that the whole logistics chain of the world with all of the shipping back and forth from different countries is all completely interrupted right now. There's also the fact that there's only so many trucks that can pull up to a grocery store at one time. There's only so many loading docks that they have. And so with more people buying food from a grocery store and not a restaurant, more people the grocery stores need more product, but there's only so much physical capacity that they have to stock. There's also staff shortages with all of the different chains in the logistics model, because people are either ill, they're taking care of their children who are not in school, they're in some cases not able to work. So there's lots of different factors that are contributing to the logistical problems that the country is having right now. There's also concerns around packaging. So like I talked about earlier, more people are eating at home. Well, what's happening is that restaurant sized packaging is 30-gallon bags or 20, gallon tubs of yogurt. You cannot sell that to an average American family member, right? Like, I'm not going to eat 20 gallons of yogurt. So companies have to pivot and change their packaging from restaurant size to individual serving size. And so that has been very challenging. I know a friend of mine who works at a company that makes containers, plastic containers, and he said that they have had to redo all of their lines recently to make smaller packaging instead of these large containers and boxes that they were making prior to COVID. There's also food waste. So the product that can't be processed, so these larger volume things that can't be processed fast enough into smaller containers and individual family size, is going to waste. Or the companies that can't get the food shipped out, that is going to waste. And so there's this balance of food being wasted and then there's shortages at the same time. So it's this dynamic that is really challenging. So spinning off that, there's only certain varieties of food available. So I know I feel every day in my house that it is a game of Chopped. Like, who watches Chopped? Do you guys watch Chopped out there at all on Food Network? Where you're given like 4 ingredients and then you have to make this amazing meal, but you don't know what the 4 ingredients are. So that's how I feel like every day in my house it has been. We don't have the fruits, vegetables, and other essentials that we typically have, or we're getting something that's different. So we're not accustomed to cooking with those items. There's limited meat options available. So we are like a boneless, skinless chicken breast kind of family, very generic. Well, we are not getting that. I couldn't source boneless, skinless chicken breast for like 3 weeks. So I had to learn how to, I don't know, we have skin on, bone on, like all different types of meat that we're cooking with now. So I've been trying to adapt to that, but I think everybody is cooking what you have available and it might not be what you're used to. We're also only making essential trips to the grocery store. So there's lots of families and people who, if they thought, oh, well, maybe lasagna might sound good tonight, I'll go get lasagna, items for lasagna, or I need to pick up noodles and ricotta, right? Well, you're not necessarily making single trips to grocery stores right now. So you're only making essential trips, or hopefully people are only making essential trips. And so you're having to use what you have. There's also the reality that there are food hoarders out there. There are people who were able to access large amounts of food that have stockpiles in their house. So we laugh about it a lot with toilet paper, but the reality is it happened with food too. So stockpiles of pasta and other things in freezers, people who have big, giant deep freezers. And what they did is they took all that product off the shelf and other people don't have access to it. So that is also a large challenge. So these are some of the statistics that I found around snacking. So right now, all of these snack companies are producing a record number of sales. Um, and it is mind-blowing, some of the stuff that I was reading, but like popcorn sales are up almost 48% from the same period last year. Pretzel sales are up 47%. Potato chips are up 30%. And you can read article after article of all of these companies that the demand on snack food is super high right now. There's a demand for cookies and crackers, soup, macaroni and cheese. And what's happening is people are, when they're stressed out, people tend to fall back into their lazy patterns and go to their comfort foods. They have easy access to snack foods. It's easy. If you're working at home and you're working at your kitchen table, you like lean over into your kitchen and grab some snacks. It's easy access to these foods that if we're out and about all day or going to class or wherever, you're not always carrying around 4 bags of pretzels and chips and stuff in your bag. You might might put one in as a snack between class, but now that you have access to all of that, is a lot easier. It also can be a really vicious cycle. So sometimes you eat to feel better, and then when you eat a whole bunch of stuff, you end up feeling worse, but then you feel worse, so then you want to feel better again, so you eat again. There's also some things that chemically happen in your body when you're eating sweet and sugary foods that can make you crave more sweet and sugary foods. So it's very interesting, like the more snacking that you're doing, it causes you sometimes to do it more. That makes sense. So with all this, there is definitely food insecurity happening all throughout the country. I know my kids' school, every Wednesday they give out food, and every Wednesday since this has happened, they give out 30,000 meals to Plymouth Canton, and they have run out every single week. So that's just Plymouth Canton and families in the school district that they're giving out 30,000 meals a week to. What's going to happen when school is officially out of session? And that's one example that is happening across the country. Also, most of the foods that are less expensive or cheaper foods are also less healthy. So you have to kind of look at it. When people are food insecure, they're buying what they can or getting what they can, and a lot of them are less healthy options. Also, Detroit is considered a food desert. So what that means is there's a whole larger definition of it, but there's just not enough grocery stores or facilities providing the food that they need for the mass volume of people. So people are having to commute out and get their food, and they're not necessarily eligible or able to acquire that food in the city that they're living in. And Detroit has been consistently ranked in the top of food deserts. I think we got Whole Foods a couple of years ago, and that is like one of the highest grossing Whole Foods in the country, because there really isn't a ton of other places to grocery shop. I know Alyssa experienced this when she was living downtown too, of like she'd have to commute out to get groceries to come back in.
It was the worst.
So my husband works at a nonprofit that's called the Fair Food Network, and it's focused around getting fresh, healthy fruits and vegetables into food deserts across the country. And I will tell you, one of their biggest clients is University Foods that they work with right off of our campus, because it's one of the only grocery stores that's available in Detroit. So the other contributing factor is lack of activity. So we're sleeping more, we're getting less steps. I will tell you guys that my watch today gave me a congratulations for activity. You know what I did? I got up from my computer and I went to the bathroom, and it buzzed like, yay, congratulations, you have activity. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I used to get 8,000 steps in just coming to work, walking in around. Now I'm lucky if I'm getting 2,000 in a day. So we're just getting less steps in general, right? We're sleeping more, our fitness facilities are closed. And in overall, a lot of us just have lack of motivation to exercise. The weather's been crappy, but today I see sun in these pictures, so I'm excited about that. So what are we gonna do? That was a lot of gloom and doom. So I have some challenges in here for you to try. Some of these things we've already said to you guys before around setting up a plan for your day, making sure you're sticking to it. Where you've heard over and over in one-on-ones or even in these calls like, oh, I slept till 4 o'clock today. You have to do what's good for you, but making sure that you're developing a plan and you're getting through your day, and you're still making progress. So maybe that looks for you like 4 p.m. till 2 a.m., or others it might be 8 a.m. till 10 p.m., but making sure you're making a plan and you're sticking to it. Set a time that you're eating your meals, so your breakfast, your lunch, and dinner. And then you want to limit your mindless snacking in between those set meal times. So maybe limiting your treats, or allowing yourself one treat or one kind of unhealthy snack a day. So what I guess my challenge for you is, like, at a bare minimum, follow the 80-20 rule, where you're eating well 80% of the time, and then the other 20% is the not so great crappy foods. Can you guys at least do the 80-20 for me? So. All right. The other thing I want to challenge you guys to do is strategically use the food that you have. So I have been challenged by this a lot, of like making sure you know what you have. Like, I don't think you need to inventory everything, but making sure you know what's going on, and that you're like, I found a cucumber in my fridge the other day that went bad, and I was ticked off because I was like, I hardly can get cucumbers anyway. And then I just let one go to waste because it got tucked in the back of my fridge somewhere where this wouldn't normally be an issue, right? Sometimes things go bad in your fridge, you toss them out, you have access to go to a grocery store, not a big deal. But right now, that's not necessarily the case. Make a plan for what you're going to eat for the week, so you know, and you can figure out when things are going bad, when fruits and vegetables, so that you're not wasting items. And then also eating your leftovers, not forgetting about your leftovers as meals, and that you can plan accordingly for that. The other thing is making sure you're getting more physical activity. So take the time that you would normally commute to school, or work, or whatever that is, to do an online class or take a walk. I have a friend who commutes normally to Ann Arbor, and she's still getting in her car and driving around just to have 10 minutes to herself. Maybe that's more helpful for you to get some peace of mind than physical fitness, but you can also just walk around the block just like you would walk from parking structure 5 to the student center, maybe lap around your apartment complex or wherever, just to get a few steps in. Also, there's a ton of virtual classes out there right now that are super fun. So making sure you try one of those out. Getting outside at least once a day, so that's another challenge. Please try to get outside one time a day for me. Just get a little bit of sun, get some fresh air, and get out there. You could do stretches throughout the day. So even if you're at your workspace or your computer, you can still do stretches. And then take a few minutes to practice some mindfulness every day, some deep breathing, whatever mindfulness exercises are things that resonate with you. That is very helpful for our mental health as well. I know that the counseling office has been doing, or CAPS has been doing, some really awesome mindfulness sessions that were really helpful that I went to. So resources, we talked a lot about food insecurity. The pantry, we've talked about this before. It's free to students every Wednesday from noon to 4. They're giving you 2 weeks worth of food. And if you can't make it on Wednesdays from noon to 4, they're doing appointments. Forgotten Harvest on the Go. So if you look at that, they actually had, I think it was this Tuesday, one was at the DIA. So there's close local Detroit ones, as well as they're out in Livonia. They're out in a lot of different places, so you can look at their schedule. And then the Michigan Bridge program, always signing up for assistance for that if you need it. All right, any questions on that presentation? So I think overall, we want you guys to just take care of yourself for all the reasons that I mentioned before, making sure that you're being deliberate in what you're putting into your body, you're taking care of your body, and you're not ending up like the cat, like, right, all laying all over the place all the time. Because when we start to get moving again, you want to make sure that you're healthy and ready to move. So, all right, I'm going to go into general updates and information. Um, phase two, so when we talked, I think last time or the time before, we had a couple phases. I think we're officially into phase two, so we can do essential work and some opening preparation projects. So that's something I know that Mike is going to talk a little bit later on upcoming shifts and what we have available, but I wanted to kind of keep you posted on what phase we're in. Um, I also have been working, and there's lots of us on the professional staff that have been working on campus restart committees. So these committees are all in tons of different areas around campus on academics. Where we are is in the retail startups, so getting our retail people started again, and our facility startups, trying to make sure that the student center, housing, all the bookstore, the dining services, what that looks like to restart. Um, and so there's lots of activity going on campus. And we actually have, I know Habib is on one of the committees, so there are student involvements on these committees as well, to help us think about what students would need, what we all would need, what the government is asking to restart safely. Wanted to chat for a second about Wayne State compared to our peer institutions. So there are some things happening across the state, particularly with like the Carnegie Mellon research institutions, being U of M and Michigan State, that is happening to them that's not necessarily happening to Wayne State right now. So the first and the biggest is each of them own hospitals. So there are the U of M hospital, there's no elective surgeries going on. There's a lot of revenue lost right now in the hospital, within the hospital. The other, and we do not own, Wayne State does not own a hospital. We have relationships with different hospitals, but we don't physically own a hospital. The other is that we do not have a large athletic program. So when I worked at U of M, between athletics and housing, they paid for the entire division of student affairs. So thinking about like OMSI and DOSO and the student center and all these other resources and operations on a campus were paid for but substantially by athletic ticket sales. And those big schools don't have those sales coming in right now. So that is a huge concern. So I think for the first time ever, I'm super excited about working at a school that doesn't have a huge athletics program, because it's actually helping Wayne State compared to some of our competitors. Any questions about that before I continue on? All right, enrollment. So I think one of the biggest things that we're concerned about right now as a university is making sure that enrollment numbers stay up, but that we can provide the types of enriching activities for students and their academics are fruitful for them, and making sure they're getting what they need, whether that's virtually or in person. So the biggest thing for us is looking at graduating seniors, where they're committing, what universities they're planning on going to. Wayne State might end up being very strong in this, because sometimes we're the hometown schools, so people can commute in if they are not necessarily comfortable moving away. But also we are definitely planning on having our residence halls open in the fall as well. So what we ask of you guys is, those of you still enrolling and have time left, to still commit to coming to school, to still enroll, to not stop out. And then also, for those of you who know graduating seniors or things like that, still encouraging them, if it's right for them, to still enroll in the fall, because a gap year might be very detrimental to higher ed as a whole. To seeing if there isn't students enrolling and there isn't those financial aid dollars coming in, that's where universities are going to be challenged. So, Also, unemployment. So we wanted to chat with you guys a little bit about unemployment. Things are moving so quickly at the state level, the government level, that things change. So we're trying to keep you as up to date as possible on these things. While typical student employment does not qualify you for unemployment, there's a lot of factors that may make you eligible in different ways. And then there's also a separate, why am I blanking on the name, Katie? GUA, GUC,
EUA.
GUA, thank you. um,
EUA.
Pandemic Unemployment Assistance.
yes, thank you,
EUA.
Jacob. So that is also available separate from regular unemployment. So I would encourage you guys to look at some of those if you feel that you meet the qualifications. There is a substantial change starting May 3rd, right? We are not offering as many hours. So we have been paying average hours up until then, but starting next week, we're only paying for the essential hours. So that may change some of your eligibility depending on what the program is and what your financial circumstances are and there's a lot of different factors. The state is the governing body for unemployment or other resources that are available because of the coronavirus right now. So we cannot tell you if you are eligible for that. You need to apply or look at it yourselves to look at the factors to see if you are eligible. Katie, do you have anything else to add to that?
Nope, sounds great.
Okay.
I think, well, I guess related to employment though, Nick Board, did you want to promote what you put in the all staff group yesterday?
Sure. So my friend Adam, who works at Aerotech, they presented at the panel that we had about hiring. He's working with GM right now, and they're trying to hire 40 college students to work over the summer making masks, and it's at $18 an hour. The downside is though that it's a night shift.
Well, some of the students aren't waking up till 4 p.m. anyway, so that might be perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna say. And do you know how soon it would be that they would need?
They're trying to start people as early as Tuesday.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it basically email Adam. His email is in the chat with your resume. You don't have to have any experience besides being willing to load some equipment into machines and take them out to help with the process. GM, there's a video that I posted, a YouTube link that's also shows the whole process overview. So it's not like you're sitting at a sewing machine making masks.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Any other questions around that? Mike, I want to hand it over to you to talk about.
Is it applicable for international students too?
My understanding is because it's a contract position, they can't sponsor employment. So I don't know unless you already have a work permit and a social security number and all that. You might be eligible, but they can't sponsor employment through it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Mike, you want to talk about upcoming shifts?
Sure. So as Andrea said, we're in our phase 2 now. So starting May 3rd, as we kind of transition to spring summer, we're gonna start focusing on just essential work only. So we have some cleaning shifts, some prep shifts for the building, and then we'll be continuing our normal walkthroughs and then our plumbing checks as well. So for those of you who've been doing it so far, it'll look a little different. We're still going to be doing 2 walkthroughs a day, but the plumbing check is going to be its own shift each day. So that'll be happening just once a day, and it'll be its own separate shift. And then 3 days a week, we'll have our cleaning and prep shift with various tasks that Yakub and Emma are putting together. So we'll, day of, we'll make sure you know kind of what you're working on every day. So we feel we have a pretty good game plan. So thank you for everyone for filling out that survey. Thank you for being honest, assessing your needs and letting us know. We think we have a pretty good blueprint for what we're doing. So I will publish that. It's pretty much ready to go. I'll publish that, and I will also be reaching out individually to everybody who is on that schedule. So we're doing it individually. There's not a ton of people, so I just feel like it's better just to one-on-one talk to everybody. I also will be emailing you because there is some new information regarding what you're doing when you come into work. It's not just normal show up, clock in, and go. We have to wear masks. We have to be filling out a health assessment before you come into work. So there's a few more steps you need to take, but I will email that to everybody. It'll be kind of a checklist for you so you know what you have to do before you go to work. Any questions about that from anybody? It will be, like Andrea said, it will be just essential hours, and unfortunately, we can no longer pay you for kind of your average workload. So we will be going to, you will get paid for what you work. So, it's kind of bouncing down to the timesheet reminder. So we're going to go back to our normal timesheets, our normal time cards. So when you're in the building, make sure you're clocking in, make sure you're clocking out. Every week after your final shift for that week, make sure you're taking a photo of your time card so that we can just, you'll still let us know what you're doing every week, but it won't be an email form with kind of your general, what you did. It'll just be, a photo of your time card so we can keep track that way. And like I said, it's only for what you're doing, the hours you're actually working at this point. Do keep in mind with the one-on-ones, with the social activity and the staff meeting every week, there is an opportunity for more hours in addition to what you're scheduled for. I mean, that goes for everybody. Those hours go for everybody. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you're thinking, oh, I'm only scheduled for this many hours, but there is an opportunity to get more that way as well. So anything else with timesheet that anyone wants to mention? Katie, if I don't know if you want to talk about that, but
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So are timesheets due every week how they have been, or are we back to bi-weekly?
You'll still be doing your filling out your online timesheet. You'll still be doing that bi-weekly like normal, but just as we've been doing the week to week, just so we make sure we're keeping up on everyone's hours, making sure people are still showing up, just making sure all that stuff's going on. At least I'm asking, maybe we'll change, but at least I'm asking from a supervisor perspective, please send it to us every week. Just take a photo. If Friday's your last shift of the week, just take a photo of your time card for that week, and then send us a photo. But you'll still be doing, the whole process will still be the normal process, bi-weekly, as far as going into academic and filling out your timesheet.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the last week, just to put it out there, this is the last, right? This pay period that we're submitting right now is the last one that we will round up to your average hours. If you have been making progress on the virtual tasks that we've given you, there are people who have just kind of pieced out and are not necessarily doing them. So we're trying to connect with them. You still had to make an effort to make sure that you're getting rounded up to your average hours. So if you have projects that are outstanding, please connect with your supervisors to make sure that they know that you have made progress if you haven't been doing that. So that's just a general for everybody. Any other questions in general before we go to coffee time? No? All right. Well, I am going to hand it
One
over.
more.
Oh, go ahead.
So far in our walkthroughs and such, and plumbing, so we in the Starbucks, there's so many sinks, but we get them to them all. But I noticed that there's like a ton of dairy products in there, and I'm just kind of thinking that are they gonna, shouldn't those be tossed out?
We can make sure that Laura and Alex are aware. I mean, they would never use them. They'd have to potentially toss them. So depending on what it is, but we can make sure Airmark is aware of it.
They're regularly below, so it's not like they've forgotten about, like they're there, including some of their managers. So, but we can make sure that they're aware of that. I'll take care of that, Andrea.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then there was
Oh.
a question in the chat about what is the word on fall semester yet. We haven't heard anything just yet on that. I know a lot of universities in the last couple of weeks have been making decisions and letting people know. So just checking your email, please, and we'll let you know if we hear, but we'll probably hear the same time you.
Yeah, and
anything more about that, Andrea?
I think that there was a situation at where the president kind of made a comment that may have been taken a little out of context in the news and the media. There has not been a decision about fall. So anything that you're hearing right now, fall all being online, that has not been decided. So sometimes things get twisted and warped in the media, and he kind of phrased something probably is not as great as he could have, but there's no decision yet. So, all right. Well, I am going to hand it over to Anna.
All right, can y'all hear me? Oh, cool. So today we're gonna go through two different things. First of all, it's gonna be the whipped coffee, because I know there's some excitement about that. So I'm gonna show you the steps. I'm not gonna do it because I don't have a hand mixer. So it would take like 45 minutes for me to just whip the coffee alone. But I can show you what to do and what you need. So first of all, you need sugar. And you can just use like a regular bag of the granulated sugar, like for Meyer and stuff. And then most importantly, you will need whipped coffee or instant coffee. So I have like this hazelnut Taster's Choice. I'm sorry about the lighting in here. There's not much I can do, but so I have like this Taster's Choice hazelnut coffee because no instant coffee tastes that great. But yeah, you have to have it. Otherwise, regular coffee doesn't work. You're just gonna end up with grounds and stuff. So make sure it's instant coffee. And then you need near boiling water. So usually what I do, because I don't want to boil a whole pot of water just for 1 cup of coffee. So I'll just stick it in a cup and stick it in the microwave. But you need 2 tablespoons of everything. So it has to all be equal parts, and then you just whip that together until you get a very like creamy texture, and then you can pour that over milk. You can pour it with ice or not. I like to pour it with ice because then when you stir it, it tastes like iced coffee. And yeah, that's how you make the whipped coffee. So now we are going to do regular lattes and stuff. So like I'm just gonna move this real quick. You do not add whipped cream on top of the coffee because the coffee is already whipped. So when you put it on there, and I guess you kind of have to stir it, but when you put it on there, it's like pretty much whipped cream itself, and it has that consistency. But you can add cinnamon if you want to. Like, sounds pretty good to me. So next we have making cafe. Sorry, just double checking the chat, make sure there's no questions. Anyways, we have a regular like cafe latte, because if you're like me and you love going to coffee shops and you're suffering a bit right now because there's no coffee shops open, then this is for you. So like the first week in the quarantine, I got super sick of just like the black coffee and milk every single day because coffee is kind of my pick-me-up through the day. So Daniel went and he bought this he bought this at Meyer. You can get these for less than 20 bucks. It's just like a manual espresso maker that I will show you how to use because it's really not that complicated. And my mom got hers on Amazon for like less than 10 bucks. So these range anywhere from like 10 bucks to 20 bucks. I suggest spending like at least 15 on it so you have a nice little quality. And then she's like one of those makeup tutorials on YouTube. We have a milk froth thing. I got this at Meyer for $6.99. It's just like electric instants. So those are the 2 most important items that you need. They're the only 2 items that you really need. So that's why is nice because the more coffee you make, the more it really like pays itself off quickly. Now, you will also need for ingredients, you need the espresso. Regular coffee works just fine, but like the way the espresso is made, it's a very like fine consistency. So it's almost like the consistency of like really soft sand. And that helps it like, it helps like with the waters going through it. It just makes it a lot better, makes it a lot stronger when you're making coffee. So it's really good to get like an espresso blend. I use this Lavazza from Italy because Italians make the best coffee and you cannot argue me on that. I will defend that with my life. So I suggest going for Lavazza, a little more expensive, tastes the best. Then you'll need, so for me personally, I like making mochas. I'm sorry, Bilal, I don't agree with you. Anyways, I like making mochas, so you'll just need some Hershey's chocolate syrup, which if you can't find at Meijer's is because it's at the end of the ice cream aisle and not with the rest of the syrup or toppings or anything else like it really should be, but we won't get into that. And then I use almond milk, not for any like health reasons or anything. I just really like almond milk. I think it tastes better. But you also need milk that's like thick with like 2 C's because it just froths better and it tastes better when you're making coffee. So let's get started. First, using this thing, you will need it like this off. So take this out. So first, in the bottom, you're gonna fill it up with water. And you can use like any water cold. You don't want it to be like filled up too much, otherwise it's gonna start getting into this thing, but you're just gonna place it at the top. I suggest you fill it up with water first before you put the coffee, and then put the coffee in this cup. Otherwise it kind of creates an air bubble, and when you put it on the stove, it like kind of creates air pressure at first. It makes a bubble in the coffee. So then what you're gonna want to do is I use like a little measuring cup because it has a flat bottom on it. So you'll want to put coffee in this puck thing and then like smash it down a bit. You don't have to do this step, but I suggest it because I think you get less grounds in your coffee versus when you just kind of loosely put it in there. So now you got that nice smashed down honey puck right inside of here, and then you just screw the top back on. And you're just gonna throw that bad boy on the stove. And voila. So this is going to heat up the part here and push the water up through, and it's gonna eventually come out of that hole right there and fill it up. You don't have to leave the top open, but I actually suggest leaving it open because I like to see when the coffee is coming up to the top, and then that way I can turn down the heat a little bit. That way it doesn't like boil it so fast and it starts coming out a little like smoother and darker. But anyway, now that you got that step working, work on the other steps. So coffee away, that for right now. Now you will need 2 mugs to kind of keep it separated. I have 2 matching mugs because, you know, what better way to measure how one mug goes in the other than getting the exact same mug. But anyways, so we're gonna use our chocolate syrup now. Thank you, Andrea. And let's see. Now, it seems like a lot of chocolate syrup, but surprisingly, when I was doing this the first time, this is actually kind of holds a lot more coffee than you think. So I tend to fill it up the bottom of it. You see, oh, there we are. Otherwise, you just can't taste it at all. And like, what's the point of putting chocolate and all that unhealthy stuff in your drink if like you can't even taste it. So in my opinion, it's just better if you do it that way. And then take a chocolate cup, set that aside, get your clean cup, get some milk. Now we're gonna fill this up. Yeah, more than that. We're gonna fill this up to about right here. You see, like, so there's enough room where you would put like the espresso and the coffee in there. And we're gonna stick that in the microwave because it's kind of big cup. I stick it in here for about 1.5 minutes. Any smaller cup, I would say about like 45 seconds to a minute. So I'm gonna throw some microwave real fast.
So Anna, is this your one sweet treat a day, following the rules?
Yes.
Right?
This is a treat that I make every day. Normally I make it on FaceTime with my mom because I convinced her to get a manual espresso maker and a milk froth thing. So every single day on FaceTime, whenever she's done with her meetings and stuff for work, she'll call me and then we'll just like hang out and talk for like an hour or so. And that's like our special thing to do every day. So, but we got a minute till everything's ready. So if anybody has any questions for me, I love answering questions.
And I was just going to say, I have one of those as well, but it's my husband's. I've never learned how to use it. So I'm glad that I know now how to use one. So thanks.
Well, it's fun because so when you're making a latte with the milk and the coffee, that's like your base of most every coffee drink you want. It's just a matter of what else you put in it. So like, you know, I do the chocolate, but like you don't have to do that, and I'll just have a regular latte and cappuccino, depending on the parts that you put in there. But coffee shows, it's like really pretty super easy. Like I think that makes it unnecessarily complicated and sweet and stuff, but it's actually pretty simple. Oh, we got coffee. So look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I turn the heat down a little bit. You can see it's very dark and just delicious. It warms the soul. And it's done. So now for the milk, we're gonna froth it. So you're gonna put this in, make sure it's in the milk before you turn it on, or if you turn it on before it's in the milk, it's just gonna splash everywhere. So you're just gonna see that, and just hold that in there for like a minute. And you wanna make sure that the cup you're using is big enough to hold all the milk when you're frothing it, because you can kind of see it goes up on the edges and it'll get all of your counter if you're not careful, which has happened to me several times. So if you gotta put it in the sink, I understand. So we're just gonna do this.
Okay, so I have a question. I have an immersion blender, but I don't have one of those. Do you think it would work?
So I've tried using a blender and it doesn't really work.
I think that'll be too powerful, Andrea. I think
You
you'll
think so?
faster.
Andrea, the immersion blender does work. You just gotta like hold it to the top of the milk just so it like makes a suction noise and kind of pulse it.
Okay. So there's a trick to it. So what you're saying is I'm going to make a total disaster out of my kitchen.
Maybe, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to incorporate air in it. And so
Gotcha.
by creating that suction, it's like bringing air into the milk to froth it.
Please send photos, Andrea, when you try it.
Record it so you guys
do
can
a
watch
video
me.
recording for us.
Yeah. That would be, no, not happening. Okay.
No, actually, just have a meeting so we can all just watch. You know, it'd just be better if we could see it live.
Oh, I'm such a horrible cook. I don't even think I could make a coffee.
All right, so we're setting the milk aside and I'm putting this in the same cup as the chocolate syrup, and I'm putting the excess in this other cup because when you make the espresso in this thing, you really should use all the coffee, because the longer it sits in here, the more metallic-y it's gonna taste, because it's so hot, it's just gonna take on the metallic taste of the container that it's in. And then what you should really do before setting your container down is either set it back on the stove top or put a little water over top of it so it's not so hot when it's sitting. Yeah, so I'm just gonna add a little chocolate to the Panda cup because I'm making one for Daniel too, so I can use all my espresso. And then what I like to do is I take a spoon and I like to stir the chocolate and the coffee together before you pour the milk over it. That way there's no like chocolate like sitting in the bottom of your cup. Do that. And these, and now it all comes together. Right. Ta-da! There's a latte, and what I like to do is put a little ribbon of chocolate on top of it. So let's see. And then to make a nice little latte, you just kind of drag it through perpendicular to the lines you just made. And it can look fancy, fancy. That's it. That's how you make your quarantine coffee. And then when you open up your own coffee shop, all your quarantine's done. So, ta-da!
I'm dead.
Seriously amazing. Love it.
Nick and I are going to start a coffee shop when this is over. I've just decided, Nick Board.
And I have a question for you about your whipped coffee. When you are whipping it, are you using your little hand mixer or do you use like a fork and whip it by hand?
I just use like a regular whisk.
Oh, a whisk. Okay. Cool. How long does it take you?
It takes me a long time.
Okay.
To get a really good consistency, it'd probably take like 45 minutes.
I tried it with the little electric whisk and it made a mess.
I've never done that. My mom has like the regular like electric hand mixer. It works so much better like that. But
yeah.
It does.
It does work in a KitchenAid too. I've done it in my KitchenAid.
Ooh.
So I have to make a little bit more milk so that Daniel can actually have some of his coffee. But yeah, as far as my demonstration goes, I'm done. I know right now I've kind of been talking about this with supervisors and stuff. But we're gonna have a little coffee hour chat. And I mean, you don't have to stay if you don't want to, but like if you just want to talk about things or complain to people who understand your situation, like feel free to, or like ask questions and stuff. I think Andrea can probably explain this a little more than I can right now.
Yeah, I think that we just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to chat and be with each other if you wanted to do that. I know I believe most of the full-time staff are going to jump off, but they could stay if you guys wanted them to. I know Mike and I have an esports meeting that we're going to be working on trying to get your esports facility built out for the fall. So we have to jump off for that. But yeah, it's just really an open forum and an opportunity for you guys to chat. And Anna agreed that she would kind of be the hostess with the mostest a little bit and stay around. So let's all give Anna our jazz hands for doing this demonstration. It was really awesome before we go to that. Woo. All right, so I am going to bow out at this point, and I will leave the rest up to you guys. So have a great coffee talk if you guys want to stay.
Real quick, sorry. Before anyone leaves, I just wanted to remind everyone that, again, at 5 o'clock today, we're having a social meeting. We're having a Kahoot tournament. So remember, I'll send out the info for the meeting at 4:45, before. So be on the lookout for that, and I hope to see you all there. Okay?
Awesome.